Cleveland, a bustling city made up of a variety of neighborhoods with a wide array of community members. This city on America's North Coast is also home to the Cleveland Community Police Commission. Since 2016, this diverse group of community members has been working together to improve the strained relationship between the Cleveland police and the communities they serve. But police reform is not a new topic in Cleveland. For years, Clevelanders have called for changes in police policy and operations. This demand increased after continuous incidents of excessive force, including a police chase in 2012 that ended with officers firing 137 rounds into a car, killing 2 people.
It started particularly with the deaths of Tamir Rice, as well as the deaths of Timothy Russell and Melissa Anderson, often referred to as the 137 shots incident. And I felt the perspective was missing. Oftentimes when I saw interviews or I read statements made in various articles and I wanted to be heard.
People were getting tired and they were starting to fight back.
A lot of folks were not taking onus. People that work for the city, people that work in law enforcement, were not taking onus for their part in this because it wasn't the people that the Department of Justice came in to investigate. It was law enforcement.
In 2014, the Department of Justice began an investigation of the Cleveland Division of Police. Cleveland was one of 23 police departments in the country investigated around this time. The investigation determined that the Cleveland police violated constitutional rights and demonstrated a pattern of excessive force. In 2015, the city signed a settlement agreement known as the Consent Decree. The Consent Decree described the ways citizens would become more involved in police policies. One of these ways was with the creation of the Cleveland Community Police Commission.
One of the things that I appreciated about the commission's creation was it forced the city to have to include community members into the policy-making process for policing. The people who are experiencing life on the streets of Cleveland as residents have a voice and they have an expertise in their lived experience that matters, that should be a part of the reform process.
The commission consists of 13 members, including 10 community members of various professional backgrounds, and representatives from the Black Shield, Fraternal Order of Police, and the Cleveland Police Patrolmen's Association.
The city opened up an application process to whoever felt a calling to do this work and may fit one of the categories that the consent decree described. For instance, college professors, people with civil rights experience, people who represented mental health advocacy, homelessness. Those types of criteria in your background were very important because those are some of the areas that police needed to hear voice from.
The goal of the CPC is to give Clevelanders a voice in the police reform process and ultimately improve the relationship between community members and police officers.
So as commissioners, we meet as a larger group. We share our ideas, our expertise, and our experiences, and then we come up with areas where we could form work groups around a certain topic. So we would create a work group around a certain topic and then involve community members with expertise on that topic to come and share ideas. And we, as a work group, will gather information. We'll gather information from the police, if we can. We'll gather information from the community and create recommendations, and then we'll bring those recommendations to the table.
Since its establishment, the Commission has issued numerous recommendations, reports, and statements on Cleveland's police policies. Issues such as accountability, bias-free policing, community and problem-oriented policing, civilian oversight of the police, search and seizure, use of force, and officer wellness were identified as some of the most important issues by the community.
So officer misconduct is any time an officer steps outside of what is known to be appropriate in terms of procedures, policies, and practices that support community and problem-oriented policing, as well as that are consistent with the laws of the Ohio Revised Code. Accountability is more about how we enforce those laws, practices, and procedures, and also how we train up officers to ensure that we reduce police misconduct. So we went through an extensive process of community engagement for about 18 months where we completed a survey, we had focus groups, we had members of the community sit on our committee, we had large focus groups within the community to really identify and pinpoint what matters most to improving community relations. We also had a lot of feedback from police officers who took our survey and participated in the focus groups. So this wasn't a one side or an us versus them. This truly was a collective process to obtain those recommendations.
Every human being on this earth has got bias. It's usually called implicit bias or unconscious bias. The key is for a police officer to try to check that bias at the door. That's not easy. You have to be trained to do that. Helping them understand what to do, help somebody understand how to approach somebody who might be transgender, how to approach somebody who might be gay or lesbian, how to approach somebody whose color of the skin is not the same as the color of skin of that police officer. That's what we really talked about. And the good thing is that the city of Cleveland has done that training. Now, one-time training, check the box, that's never enough. It's up to the trainer and the police officers, the chief of the police, to make sure that that training actually sinks in and that it's accepted and that it's employed back into the neighborhoods.
So the Community and Problem-Oriented Policing Plan, CPOP, is a community policing model that assists community and Cleveland Division police officers in solving problems found in neighborhoods.
We have meetings with leaders of the community where we all come together along with the police force, the commanders, the lieutenants, community organizers, and we all sit down and talk about different issues that are affecting their individual communities. And then we come up with solutions to bring additional resources in to help them identify those resources.
Successful police oversight means a working arrangement between the civilian oversight body and the police division brass that's cooperative, that's respectful, where they exchange ideas, where the police can be questioned as to certain decisions they've made, and don't consider questions as automatically as criticism.
Well, search and seizure really is rooted in the Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution, but in essence, it's about the right of privacy, right to privacy of individuals in their homes, on the street, and in vehicles. Cleveland Police Department, as far as it goes, comes into contact, the patrolmen on an everyday basis with citizens generally of minorities, and the way they treat them, why they stop them, why they stop their vehicles, why they go into their houses with or without search warrants. It really came down to showing more respect for individuals confronted by the police on the street or in their cars or in their homes, and taking the Supreme Court decisions and trying to translate them into terms that a police officer can understand, while at the same time protecting the privacy interest of the individual citizen or suspect. I think that our Search and Seizure Work Committee of the Cleveland Police Commission has done a substantial amount of work of changing the policy of the city of Cleveland. Even where our recommendations were rejected, the city has understood and in a certain extent accepted our criticisms.
Use of force policy provides a legal framework for when they are allowed to use weapons against civilians or against people that they deem as a threat. One of the things that we as a commission and the community was very interested in investigating was why shoot to kill. They were like, the reality is when you are shooting someone, you have to aim for the biggest possible part of the body because it's all kind of happening fast. And so you're more likely to hit the biggest part of your target, which is your chest. And if you have a chest injury, that usually leads to death. With that piece of knowledge, we then said, all right, well, let's go backwards into the process of like, all right, well, the gun is shot, the bullet hits the person, let's rewind from that, the gun is brandished, and from there. Then we started realizing that the use of force is not just the bullet in the gun, the use of force is actually just taking out the weapon. That is a use of force as well. If an officer can, find another alternative to deadly force in the time that they have the decisions to make it, they should absolutely be required to be trained on how to make those decisions.
Our goal is to help with the officers' wellness policies. So whatever policies the police have to protect the officers' mental health, the officers' mental wellness, so that they can keep it together, so that they can be good police officers, we would like to look at those policies, make recommendations for the policies. Our first step is that we wanted to hear from the officers how they feel about wellness generally, about mental health topics. We wanted to assess their attitudes about mental health and seeking help. And we wanted to learn what they think about their current programming and what they perceive their own needs to be. It states in the consent decree that the officer's own wellness is critical for them to constitutionally police. So it's right in the consent decree. I think it should be a no-brainer. I think we should all be able to agree on the police should be able to have the resources they need, the time they need to take care of themselves so that they can be good police officers.
There's a significant number of officers who may not feel empowered to come out and say that, yes, we need reform. And so they're kind of limited in their responses. And knowing that, I went ahead and stepped forward to actually try and bring that forth for them.
Trust is something that is earned every single day by every single action. And our police officers now who are coming out of the academy are better trained than they've ever been. They're doing 30 weeks of training before, where police officers were graduating and they were only doing 20 weeks of training. I think the culture of competency is better. There's a new breed and a new generation of new leaders that are emerging through the police department, but time will tell. It's every action, every interaction with the police and the community that builds that trust.
When you can see community and officers standing shoulder to shoulder and having safe communities, that's ultimately what we like to see.
The commission started out as an idea. The idea was to bring the community voice into the process of police policy. Over a period of 5 years, it turned into an institution that the community decided they want to be lasting and forever. That journey has been one of my proudest moments, to see how that can work, to have the right people involved in building trust with the community. It was a step in the direction that we're all hoping for policing in the future.
I see a process where every year the commission and the Division of Police work together to make small tweaks to policies based on the data that they've been collecting together. I see a police force that isn't just the executive branch's kind of strong arm, but it is a community partner to get towards an end, which is ensuring that everyone who is in the city of Cleveland has a safe and pleasant experience living here and visiting here and playing here.
Having started from this being a citizen civilian organized commission and seeing it where it is now, I think we have to continue to build on that. If we can improve relationships by seeing all of us as a collective community, as opposed to it's them and it's us, we can improve relations. At this point, we haven't gotten there.
We've made some important steps so far, but lasting improvement depends on active community involvement. Let your voice be heard by joining a CPC work group, participating in CPC and community events, attending district policing committee meetings, emailing the CPC at info@clecpc.org, or visiting the CPC's website. Together, we can create a safe, fair, and just Cleveland.